Hello, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be walking you through my DNF shelf on Goodreads. For those of you that might be unfamiliar with the term DNF, it means did not finish. It's a term that people in the book community have coined to mean just a book that you didn't want to complete for whatever reason. Thought it might be fun, might be interesting to run you through the 140 plus books that I have decided not to finish for whatever reason. And maybe at the end of this video, I might consider picking up one of these books or a handful of these books on your recommendation. If you see a book on this list and you're like, oh my god, Chandler, I cannot believe you didn't finish that book, let me know. But I think it was just going to be a fun exercise. We're going to look at the books, screen record on Goodreads, and I'm going to tell you why I didn't finish these books. Some of them I'm probably not going to have a good answer for you. Some of them are going to be books that I could just tell were not my cup of tea. Regardless, I think it's going to be a very, very fun time just scrolling through these books with all of you. Before we get into it, I want to tell you about something that I personally would never DNF, something that I want to continue to make a part of my everyday life, and that is the Paired app, the sponsor of today's video. Paired is an app that makes it super easy to take care of your relationship by prompting fun and meaningful conversations between you and your partner. The app has interactive games, challenges, and tools that are designed to foster relationships, and these interactions help to unlock relationship potential, strengthen bonds, and create lasting memories. Now, if you've ever watched a Q&A with Hayden and I, my husband, or you follow us over on the vlog channel, you know how often we talk about good communication, and if you've seen us interact, it's very clear that we talk a ton, but that doesn't mean that we're always getting to, I guess, the heart of deeper conversations and deeper discussions. I also think that just because you've been in a relationship for a very long time doesn't mean that you can't explore new things with your partner, and it doesn't mean that you can't get to know your partner even more than you already do. The Paired app is amazing because you can get to know your partner on a deeper level no matter how long y'all have been together. Plus, the Paired app is backed by expert research and advice, so the prompts within the app go beyond just the surface level and really cover a wide variety of relationship topics, which I really appreciate. After 14 years together, you'd think that Hayden and I had exhausted all topics of conversation, run out of things to talk about, but the Paired app really helps us to continue to get to know each other and honestly really makes us laugh. I like too that you don't have to be in the same room to use the Paired app. I have it on my phone, he has it on his phone, and the app reminds your partner to finish the prompts or the quizzes, which, you know, is super nice if you have a partner with ADHD like I do. And again, it's just super nice considering how busy Hayden and I are. It's like we don't always get time every single day to have really deep and meaningful conversations, but I feel like this app sparks those conversations. I cannot tell you how many times we have answered little question packs together, which is my favorite feature of the app, and then had conversations in real life later on about the way that we've answered the questions within the app. Honestly, so fun. It's just a new way to connect with your partner. It's something that I think that so many of you would love. Again, my favorite feature is the question packs, which I feel like is kind of a basic answer, but I just love answering questions, and I also love hearing Hayden's responses to things. So if you're looking for a new way to connect with your partner, you really have to check out the Paired app. If you click my link in the description down below, you'll get a 7-day free trial and 25% off of Paired Premium, so you can maintain and deepen your connection with your partner. Let's get screen recording and explore my DNF shelf, shall we? So the books that I have DNF'd most recently are the ones that we are going to talk about first. We might descend into madness as we continue because I did take a brief look at the shelf before clicking screen record, and I was like, I don't even recognize the titles of some of these, but I do recognize some of them. And the first one is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This book, I'm going to leave a link in the description to the vlog I just posted where I read this book or attempted to read this book. Why was it so goddamn confusing? Can someone please explain it to me? This was supposed to be what Fourth Wing couldn't possibly deliver on for me, which was sexy, fun dragon writing. Instead, I was genuinely just perplexed the entire time. And I like to consider myself a fairly intelligent individual, even if I often say on my channel that I'm stupid. And so to be so lost by what was going on, to not understand the magic system, to not understand the world, I think says something about the writing of this book. And I simply don't have the time to try to puzzle through things, to have the glossary open. I like glancing at a map from time to time in front of a book, but I'm certainly not going to be flipping to, this isn't Dune, okay? One of y'all actually in my comment section on that video talked about how you also read Dune and how Dune was easier to understand than this book. So I feel confident in my decision to DNF this book. This is one you cannot convince me that I should pick up. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to. Bridesmaids for Hire by Megan Quinn. This is a book that wasn't hard to understand so much as it was overwritten. Do you ever pick up a book that has a particular trope and you're like, wait, how did we get to this place? I don't remember all of the specifics of this particular novel. What I can tell you is this is a fake dating situation. Our heroine is going to a beach vacation to just like have a good time. She's like sitting, drinking her margaritas on the beach in Mexico, where I actually don't really know where the fuck she is. I'm painting a picture for you, okay? She's sitting on the beach, she's having a good time, and she realizes there is a very wealthy man and his daughter. She's getting married on the beach. She's going to have a beach wedding, but things are kind of going awry. Things are going a little bit twisty. The guy, the dad, he owns a hotel chain, or at least he's in charge of a hotel chain. This chick is a wedding planner, and she's like, I'm taking a break from wedding planning, but you know what? It seems like they need some help. And also, if I can help this girl with her wedding that's kind of going a little bit astray, maybe I can get a job working for this guy, for the old man. Okay, the hero works for the dad. The dad's a piece of shit, apparently. He's apparently not a very nice guy to be around. We don't like him. He's not a fun time guy. He's trying to get on his good side by attending this wedding. And for some reason, she, the heroine, and he, the hero, know each other. I think they might have hooked up. He ghosted her. They're gonna pretend to fake date because apparently that is something that makes sense in this context. It doesn't make sense in this context. Why did we have to go through all those fucking hoops to get a fake dating story? Can someone please tell me? Which is disappointing because Megan Quinn is one of those authors that I want to love everything she publishes. It never fucking happens. But some of her books have been winners for me, okay? This one was just simply not that. I feel like a lot of books like this one, like Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, are going to fall into this category of right book, wrong time, perhaps. To be transparent, I didn't have the best luck with Delilah Green Doesn't Care. I found Delilah to be a little bit irritating. However, I was really excited to go into Iris Kelly Doesn't Date, but when I picked this book up, I was looking for a slightly frothy, slightly fun sapphic romance, and I kind of forgot that Ashley Herring Blake kind of cut her teeth on hard-hitting YA books. That's kind of how she got her start in literature, and she brings that same energy to her rom-coms. So when I picked this up, I wasn't expecting the sort of like depressing nature at the beginning of this book, right? Like, I think one of the heroines gets dumped by a long-term partner, one of them is kind of rudderless. It just wasn't really the vibe, frankly. I would be willing to give this one a second chance. Y'all let me know in the comments, again, if you want me to give this book a second chance. It has good ratings. It has like a 4.16, so clearly people like it. Moving on, we have Tempting Olivia by Claire Ashton. I really enjoyed Meeting Millie, which was the first book in this series, but something about Tempting Olivia just didn't totally do it for me. I think because I had read a book that was pretty similar to this one, and this one wasn't as good, I was just kind of like, about it. Another confident DNF is Dune by Frank Herbert. This is one that I DNF'd not because I didn't understand it, not because it was too confusing, not because I'm too unintelligent to comprehend it, but because I didn't like it. I watched the movie first, which was probably a mistake, but I had also done just like the most neurodivergent deep dive into the Dune universe on YouTube. Like, I understood the ins and outs of this story before picking up this book, so I didn't need to reference a glossary. I understood the terms. I just didn't feel like the additions or the things that were cut out of the book for the movie really added to the richness of the story. Maybe I was just missing something. Maybe it just like something that I couldn't appreciate. I mean, it isn't something I could appreciate because I DNF the book. Additionally, I feel like the prose here was a little dry, and I want more emotion in a story like this. Effortless by S.E. Stevens, I didn't get far in this one at all. I really didn't. So it's like hard to say why I DNF'd it. No, it's not. It's not actually hard to say. I really hated the first book in the series, Thoughtless, which is one of those books that I think if you read it when it first came out, it was probably revolutionary for you. But if you read it with fresh eyes, you're probably like, why the fuck did I like this? And if you read it for the first time in 2024, like I did, you're just genuinely perplexed as how anyone could like the story. About this girl who moves in with her boyfriend of like a few years. They live with a really hot rocker guy, and she ends up cheating on her boyfriend with the rocker guy. And Effortless is about the relationship with the rocker guy and like how they work out things, because the first one ended on a cliffhanger. Every scene in that first book was painful to read. I didn't care about the heroine. She was kind of a dumb bitch. Not in a fun way, like not in a dumb bitch book club kind of way. Yeah, pretty confident about my DNFing of that one, especially since I don't think it would have like impacted why I was picking up that book. Okay, tell me if you want this video. I kind of want to make it still. A Goodreads list feature, if you were unaware, where people can just like build lists and you can vote on books to go on these lists. One of the ones that's always like touted is Best Book Boyfriends, and if you look at the list, it is unhinged. Like the top book is Beautiful Disaster by Jamie McGuire, okay? I was gonna read the top 10 books on that list and let you know why I think these men should be arrested, because pretty much all of the ones on the list are like actually toxic, horrible people. Thoughtless was on that list, and so was Effortless, so I was gonna read both of them, but honestly, it's like I already know why the guy guy's a piece of shit in the first book. Do I really need to read the second? Holly by Stephen King. I just don't like Stephen King's writing. I don't think he knows how to finish the story. I've only, I think, finished one of his books, DNF'd a couple. I was reading this for what reason? I don't know. Oh, it was for, I think, one of like the most read, no, it was the winner. It was the winner of the horror section of the Goodreads Choice Awards last year, I think. Crazy. The Jessed Heir by Sarah Hashem. Hashem? I don't know how to say that last name. You let me know. Funny story, actually. I was going to pick this book back up for a taste test that I'm doing in a couple of weeks, but I talked to that person and they actually wanted me to swap that book for something else, which I'm actually greatly excited about. Not necessarily about the book they picked, but the fact that I don't have to re-pick up this book. Here's the thing. This book had such an interesting world, such rich culture baked in. It was something that I was really hyped for, but the more I read, the more bored I got. I feel like this book really suffered from that like middle 50% slump. We have a character is trying to hide from people once she has been found out. That portion of the book, not very exciting. I'm sure after that like middle chunk of the book it gets interesting, but I wasn't really there to stick around for it, right? It wasn't a long audiobook. Even if I listen at 3 times speed, like I still don't, 6 hours is a lot to listen to, okay? The Takeover. This is the premise of Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, but like less interesting and less sexy. I feel like that says all it needs to say. Corporate takeovers are not very sexy. I really think that we need to do less of that in books. Ali pulled it off, but most authors can't. One of my least favorite books of all time, I think, is called The Takeover. I have a personal vendetta against corporate takeovers, I guess. Catch by Amy Lee. Keep giving this author a try because her books keep ending up on lists for list videos. Dilemmas here, because it's like I've read some of these authors or given some of these authors so many chances because they end up on list videos. It's like, do I try to give them a 3rd, 5th, 7th chance, continue to DNF, or do I just like not even attempt to pick it up? I mean, it's like, what's the right protocol? And I haven't quite figured it out yet. But Heroine, I believe, shows up in like Canada or something. She gets kind of turned around. She's not exactly where she's supposed to be. She's an influencer in the wild, and she runs across this grumpy guy, and I didn't give a fuck, frankly. Grumpy Sunshine's a hard sell for me, and that one just didn't seem to pull it off. Dragged to the Wedding by Andrew Gray. Premise of this one is that Guy needs to bring a woman to a wedding, and he enlists the help of a drag queen, which, like, great premise, but execution wasn't my favorite. Moving on to Trick Shot by, is it Kayla Gross? This is a smutty Christmas novella. Hockey, obviously, in the title, Trick Shot. Girl gets, I think, like picked up at an airport, gangbanged, and respect. But I think when I was reading this, I was in a deep depression, frankly. Hole cramming doesn't really heal the holes in my heart. These next two just fall into the same category, so I'm going to talk about them together. The Midnight Bargain and The Ruthless Lady's Guide to Wizardry. I do not like historical fantasy. I'm sorry, I don't. I know so many of y'all fuck with it because it has cozy vibes, and respect. I really do respect it. I don't respect it for me though, because I don't think ever enjoyed a cozy historical fantasy, which is weird. I love a historical romance and I like fantasy, but when you combine the two, rancid vibes to me. Not cozy, rancid. Simply rancid. Oh, one that I'm actually sad about is Shucked by Kate Canterbury. This book I DNF specifically for the hero. So the heroine is, I think, opening up her own business with her friends next door to the hero's clam business. What sorts of shellfish can you shuck? He's an asshole. He like doesn't like what this person is doing with her own business, and he tries to like make her life difficult, and she's just a dick for no reason. Oh, she is also his best friend's little sister, I think, as well, so they like have a past, have a history. I really liked In a Jam. I noticed overlap and similarities between these two because In a Jam, the hero in that book is rude to the heroine for kind of no reason. At the beginning of the book, we sort of start to understand why he is the way he is as time goes on, and I wasn't like totally off put by him by the end of the book because he's like my wife or whatever. Couldn't say the same for Shucked. Like, he was just a little above ground, antagonistic. It's not for me. Power by Cassandra Robbins. I think that this one is an age gap romance. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that the heroine bangs her mom's boyfriend. The mom's a cougar, so like the guy that she's with is a little bit younger than her. He's really into the daughter, and so they start fucking. Oh, the best part too, the heroine has a boyfriend. He's kind of like not great, obviously, and she's getting, I think, this guy like in a kitchen. The hero comes in and is like, you're not doing it right, let me step in. So God of Malice by Rena Kent. I've given Rena Kent a ton of tries at this point, and I haven't really liked any of her books. Is this the one I'm thinking about where he likes, yeah, okay. Not only does some like consensual. He likes to dig, he wants to be a doctor so he can dig around in people's guts. Bitter Medicine by Mia Sai. This one was really interesting to me. It is a urban fantasy romance. Heroine, I believe, has like powers that she's trying to keep hidden. Hero is really, really powerful. Kind of was reminiscent of some like Nalini Singh, some just like old school books like that. It just wasn't enough to keep me super interested. I think is probably why I DNF'd it. Similar with Anna Maria and the Fox. Shutout by Avery Keelan. I'll be honest, I cannot fucking remember. Same with Mr. and Mrs. Witch by Gwenda Bond. Sometimes you just can't remember books. Like you'll put something on you're currently reading, you'll be reading multiple books at once, as I do. You eventually get back to that book and you're like, I don't remember anything, or like this wasn't that good, it's not even worth picking back up. And that's kind of how I felt about these two, I'm pretty sure. A book that I very intentionally DNF'd was Spare by Prince Harry. Don't dislike Prince Harry, actually. I quite enjoy him and I like his wife. Didn't really like this memoir though. It felt a little unfocused. I wanted it to have more focus. It's supposed to be, I think, talking about his experience as being the spare heir. I might revisit in the future, but I think I was under a time crunch and this just like was not top priority at the moment. So it's not the first time this author is going to show up on this list. I'm actually just going to talk about these two at the same time. By a Thread and The Worst Best Man by Lucy Score. Sometimes you just find that authors are not for you, and that is okay. I just simply don't like the writing style here. The way that Lucy Score writes her heroes is just not appealing to me, frankly, and I find her heroines to usually be much too quirky, whether they are like overconfident quirky or like falling all over themselves quirky. I don't connect with her stories, and they're also too fucking long. Like why the 500+ page contemporary romance? It just doesn't simply make sense. Knew that I didn't like the books with like the flowers on the cover by her, and so I was like, if I get out of the knock me out. Honestly, knock me out. I thought if I could get out of that world, that perhaps I could like a book by her, and that has not come to pass. To Swoon and Despar by Martha Waters. You know how I was talking to you about list videos? This is a like 5-book series, maybe 6 books at this point. It's a long fucking historical romance series, and I've read every goddamn one of them, or at least attempted to, because they literally always show up for list videos. I have liked one. I don't remember what this one's about. Probably some like fickle spinster and some guy who's like trying to bag her. That's kind of what all of her books are about. Ruby Spencer's Whiskey Year by Rochelle Bilo. Don't remember much about this book except for this chick goes to Scotland, and I think that she has a grumpy sunshine sort of ish relationship with this guy. It has 3.43 stars. I think I'm probably good on that. Same with this Shane Rose book. I think there's multiple Shane Rose books. There's Corrupted Chaos between Commitment and Betrayal. I believe this is the author who like pretty much always has banging within the first 20% of her book, and not just like they hook up once. I mean, it's like they're banging at the 20% mark and then they continue to bang for the rest of the book. Like relationship development. I like the sex to mean something. I'm fuddy-duddy. I just am. I simply am. And I'm okay with that. Next up is The House Witch. This book I read because it was an Amazon bestseller, I believe, or I attempted to read it because of that. Queer fantasy romance, which, you know, I love that vibe, I guess. No, I don't. I mean, I love queer romances. I just don't really like fantasy romance that much, especially like cozy fantasy romance. This kind of reminds me of, what is it? Biscuits and Books. I don't fucking remember the name. I'm gonna put the picture right here. This book everybody likes. It was reminiscent of that. That wasn't my favorite. End of Story by Kylie Scott. Don't remember. Same with The Wrong Mr. Right by Stephanie Archer. Stephanie Archer is an author who I have tried a couple of times and haven't had the best luck with. I want to say she wrote one book that I did enjoy though. Yes, The Fake Out. This is just a classic hockey romance that I gave 5 stars to. Her other book, Behind the Net, I think I gave 2 stars to. I like how I just ranked that. Okay, confident on that DNF. I didn't love the friends to lovers, I'm pretty sure, dynamic here. Catherine Cowles, I try with her books, but romantic suspense is just not something that I really like. There's something sexy about being in danger. How can one focus on getting railed when you're worried about being murdered? Somehow all of the characters in these books seem to make that work, but I can't get past it. Not the Plan. Reading about politics is hard enough in a non-fiction setting, but in fiction, I'm like, I'm supposed to be escaping, man. Like, this is not the vibe. I didn't really like the hero in this book. I think that's been my problem with some of this author's books. Her heroes are very psychologically distressed. I'm all for people getting therapy, but sometimes I just like, I need a guy who is perfect in romance, because I know a lot of imperfect men in real life, and that's enough for me. Hate Adam Connor by Ella Mays. I love Ella Mays. She's a sweetheart. I really enjoyed Marriage for One. She has a very similar writing style to like Elena Armas and Mariana Zapata, which is quirk. That's fine, but sometimes it's not what I'm looking for. I have to be in a particular mood to kind of enjoy that. Same with The American Roommate Experiment, so confident in my DNF of those ones. Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy. I don't actually know why I DNF'd this one. They're making like a Christmas adult film. Compelling premise, for sure. Hate Me Babe by Tilly Cole. I think enough said on that. The Queens of Innisleer by Tessa Gratton. This was just a big, chunky adult fantasy that I wasn't in the mood for. Secret by Max Monroe. I don't remember this book whatsoever, and I don't remember why I DNF'd it. I do remember why I DNF'd Sea of Ruin and Does It Hurt, though. Dark romance is a genre that I used to really fuck with. It used to be something that I thought was like so unique, different, and a way to just explore themes that I feel like I wasn't really getting in contemporary romances when I first started reading dark romance. Like, back a few years ago, this might be crazy to say and to think out loud, smutty romances were actually a little harder to find. There weren't a plethora, I will say, of like good smutty K romances like there are today. And so dark romance kind of provided that, I think, for me. It seems like all the dark romances I pick up today are either corny, like Does It Hurt, which is a literal question the hero asks the heroine while they're having sex, or they are just so dark that it doesn't sit well with the soul, okay? Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. She is apparently one of the queens of dark romance, and I could see that because this book is really well written. It's like a historical with like, I don't think mermaids, but like pirates for sure. Really graphic on page assault, and that's kind of a hard no for me. I thought that I was strong enough for that. I just am not. Reverse by Kate Stewart. I liked the first book in this duet. I think the heroine works for like a news publication, and she is a music reviewer, falling for a musician and also falling for someone else that works at the news publication, and she's like a love triangle. It's fun. It's a fun book. Reverse is about heroine's daughter, the rejected hero's son, because obviously it's a love triangle, like she's not gonna end up with both of them. It'd be cooler if she did, but felt like this one, I don't want to say it was overwritten, but I feel like it was a little melodramatic, and I love Kate Stewart for that. Like, she does write really melodramatic romances, but this one just didn't connect with me. The Red Scrolls of Magic by Cassandra Clare. I fucking love the Mortal Instruments series. One of my favorite series of all time, frankly. It's just nostalgic for me. I don't care about spinoffs after the fact. I don't care about continuations of series that have happened like 10 years into the future. Like, the author writes the series continuation 10 years into the future. By then, it's like I'm comfortable with the amount of books that have been written for the series, and I don't need the extra material. I also DNF'd One Night on the Island by Josie Silver. Me and Josie Silver, if you don't know, because it's been a while since I've talked about it, have the best track record, right? She writes these kind of like drippy women's fiction-y British rom-com-y books that I don't really like, okay? Love Your Neighbor by Sophie Sullivan is about a guy who is trying to purchase the lot next door to him where there is a house currently residing that our heroine has inherited from her grandmother, I believe. He's trying to buy the lot next door so he can bulldoze it and make a McMansion, if you will. In this climate, I don't know that I like love that message. It kind of sucks. Moving on. Beautiful Stranger by Christina Lauren. I do not remember DNFing this one. This series by Christina Lauren I think will really shock people who have not read it before, or who like don't know Christina Lauren's origins as like these smutty romance authors, but this is like the most dude bro-y like series of all time. Like, the girls are steady giving head, never getting it. What a series. I remember reading, I think like the third book while I was like babysitting in high school, and I was like, God, this is like scandalous as fuck and like so hot. I reread it recently and my eyes were rolling so far into the back of my head that I took a nap. So, Drive Me Wild by Melanie Harlow. I love Melanie Harlow. The Bellamy Creek series didn't totally work for me. I think I finished the second book. I could be wrong. I could have only attempted to read this one. I think the heroine is like a runaway bride. Hero helps her fix her car or something to that effect. That might be the second book. I don't know. Love Melanie Harlow. A lot of her books do tend to kind of run together. The Truth About Melody Brown by Lisa Jewell. I was expecting this one to be a traditional like thriller like this author is known for, and this really wasn't that. It was like a women's fiction-y thriller, kind of like Leanne Moriarty. Scott Bed's His Wife by Kerrigan Byrne. Kerrigan Byrne is another author who employs assault often in her prologues and in the beginning of her books. I don't remember if that's exactly what happens in this one, but sometimes her shit is just a little too much for me. Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. I don't remember why I DNF'd this one, but given recent events, I feel good about that. Mastered by Maya Banks. Hot and Badgered by Shelley Lawrenston. These two I was gifted by my husband when he picked my TBR. I wasn't in the mood to read either of those. Baker by Sarah Smith. This is one that I had like put off reading for so long. When I picked it up, I wasn't a huge fan. Kind of a grumpy sunshine. I think he's kind of an asshole from what I can remember. Courting Darkness by Robin Lefevers. I love the like assassin nuns trilogy. I really like those books. They were like some of my staples in high school. Similar situation to Red Scrolls of Magic. I feel like I don't need continuations of series that I used to love. Best Friends Don't Kiss. I don't remember. Wild in Love by Eloisa James. And Duke in Shining Armor by Loretta Chase. I love Loretta Chase. She writes some of my favorite historical romances, and I really enjoyed one Eloisa James book. It was the first one I ever read by her, and I tried to recreate that magic by picking up more of her stuff. And I don't want to say it was like not a good idea, but like I have yet to find a book by her besides that one that I really enjoy. Try Another Four-Letter Words. I want to say this was more of a time crunch one because I don't remember why I DNF'd this. The Road Trip by Beth O'Leary. I feel similarly about Beth O'Leary as I do Josie Silver. Same like British sense of humor, same like sadness, I guess. This one is about a couple who is broken up, getting into a car accident together and then having to road trip to a wedding, I guess rekindling the relationship. Apparently the relationship was toxic, so why are they trying to get back together? Malice by John Gwynne. This one, listen, this should be on pause. I didn't think that this was a bad book. I don't remember much of it. Honestly, it's kind of a wonder that there aren't more fantasy books on this list because, well, I genuinely fucking love fantasy. If I were to only read two genres for the rest of my life, they would be romance and fantasy. I just can't seem to convince myself to read fantasy because it takes so fucking long. If you hadn't noticed, I'm a bit of a, I was gonna say size queen, volume queen. I like to get through books quickly and I like to be able to talk to you about multiple books at one time. To invest that kind of time into fantasy. Ugh. Lords of Pain. Oh, I remember this one. I don't remember what it's about though. Let's see. From my Goodreads review, we're getting sexual assault vibes. No on that. XX by Erin Sterling. I wish that Erin Sterling's books worked for me because I remember when this came out, it was like such a good fall. It was such a good fall and I was really looking for a good witchy romance. Witchy romances are cursed. I've never read a good one and I stand by that. Damnation Spring by Ash Davidson is a book about logging in like the 60s. Enough said. Corpse Flower by Anne Met Hancock. This is a book that I believe was translated from another language, which I think made for a kind of hard to connect with story, but it was interesting. This is a thriller. I don't remember much about it, so I can't really like tell you about it, but it was actually pretty good. And this is one I actually might revisit at some point because I think I got this from Libro FM. Reputation by Adriana Locke. This is one that, oh, I've actually tried to read twice. Fuck. I love Adriana Locke. She writes some of, in my opinion, the most solid romances on Kindle Unlimited. Like she's another one like Melanie Harlow that I don't want to say sticks to a tried and true formula, but is really good at crafting a romance. Like you could tell that she plots books. Like she knows what she's doing. You're not just reading a bunch of random chapters thrown together. That being said, this is a second chance romance. For some reason, it just did not connect with me like I wanted it to. I think the heroine was a little too stubborn. After a while, I just like wanted her to give in to the hero. Once There Were Wolves, I don't remember that, like, of all of the books on this list, I do not fucking remember this one. So 2021, I'm looking at these books ahead of us, y'all. I don't remember shit about these books. Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. I think this time period is really when I started getting away from YA because I just don't connect with it like I used to, and that's okay. Perfect on Paper, Rise to the Sun. I think that's why I DNF'd that one. Murders a Witch? I don't even remember picking this book up. Intimacy Experiment. Rosie Dana is another author who, like, I just haven't had the best luck with. Okay, It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake is about a heroine who is bisexual, which we love, kind of like sleeps around to figure herself out, which is kind of like not the best bi stereotype. I think it's like trying to go against that, but didn't really feel like it was accomplishing what it set out to do. And I knew that it wasn't going to work for me because, again, like, don't love that premise. Yeah, I don't love that premise. Moving on. Kiss Me with Lies. Twin Lies #1. The cover of this is kind of giving that one series by Sarah Shepard, The Lying Game. I could not fucking tell you what this series is about, honestly. Be honest, am I uncool for DNFing Den of Vipers? I don't give a fuck. I think I tried to read this book like twice and I couldn't do it. It was so corny. And it's funny because I feel like this book really had its day in the sun and then I don't hear about it anymore, which is dissimilar from Haunting Adeline, which I wish that people would stop talking about, and yet I keep seeing it everywhere. Ride Upon Styx by Quan Barry. I probably wouldn't have picked this up on my own. I read it because Kayla from Books and Lala liked it. I don't know why I was reading this, but I'm confident with that. DNF. Fuck. Playing with Fire by LJ Shen. Pet motherfucking peeve. Do not set your books a place that you have never been, okay? If you're going to create a fictional town, you can maybe get away with it. Maybe. The author tries to set this book near Austin. Not a great attempt at that. Untouchable by Sam Mariano. I don't like assault in my romance. I don't find it romantic. Deviant King by Rena Kent. Same deal. Me and Rena, we just don't get along, and that's okay. Dirty Charmer by Emma Chase. She has very douchey heroes. She usually does dual POV. Tangled was such a weird, we're not gonna get into it. Upon a Burning Throne. This YA fantasy was confusing, I think, to me. Normal people have conversations. These people did not, so. Nosferatu by Joe Hill, son of Stephen King, I believe. Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. Respect Katie Robert. I love her commentary over on Threads. I just don't really tend to connect with her books. They're very smut forward, and that's fine. This is like a Princess Jasmine and is it Jafar retelling? with consensual non-consent. Not yucking your yum. Queen of Shadows by Diane Sylvan, huh? Don't remember that. Don't remember why I picked that one up. King of the South by Kalia Reed. A time travel romance? I don't know. For some reason I'm picturing a ballroom. Having visions. Born in Fire by Nora Roberts. Again, respect to the queen, respect to one of the OGs, but I have not really connected with Nora's books, and I just think I haven't been reading the right ones. So maybe you'll let me know what Nora Roberts book I need to pick up. Tell Me Pretty Lies by Charlie Rose. This one, you know, I couldn't tell you why I DNF'd it, couldn't tell you what the book's about, but I haven't seen much of Charlie Rose lately, and I think there's a couple of books on this list that I DNF'd by her. I have not had success with her books, but I feel like she was pretty prolific back in the day, and I don't think she's published since like 2018, 2019. The Guy in the Middle by Kate Stewart. This one had some pretty poor gay Latino representation. There's like dialect on page that's like vaguely racist, so I didn't personally continue with that one. The Kisser, a Meet Your Man novel. Don't know why I picked this one up, but I believe it is about a male ballerina. It's an intriguing premise, yeah. Apparently he was a douche and over reliance on tropes. Okay, checks out, makes sense. Sick Fucks by Tilly Cole. I know that other Tilly Cole I just didn't even bother talking about. This one got recommended by quite a few people pretty often, and I was curious, so I gave it a try. Basically, hero and heroine used to be friends growing up. They were sold into like questionable situations, if you catch my drift. They reunite in adulthood to kill their abusers. The heroine has some, like, I don't want to say intellectual issues. She is she kind of acts like a child, so it makes for a weird story. 10 Tiny Breaths by K.A. Tucker. I want to say this one's about a drowning. Tell you I didn't like it, and I can tell you, oh yeah, Casey Cleary's whole life imploded 4 years ago in a drunk driving accident. Uncle Raymond slides into her bed. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of reasons why I probably didn't want to read that one. The Best Thing by Mariana Zapata. The best thing would be to tell the father of your child that he is the father of your child. The second best thing would be to be passive aggressive and kind of withhold this information after he has met the child, like 5 years after this kid's birth. Truth About Lies by Ellie Martinez. I love Ellie Martinez. She tends to write these like really melodramatic, like romantic suspense sort of situations, and sometimes I like it, sometimes the attempts don't work. Something Like Gravity by Amber Smith was a YA book that I DNF'd, same with Rain and Delilah's Midnight Matinee. The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Yawn fucking city, and I think we all need to come together as a collective and just accept that, you know? I feel the same way about The Night Circus, because I am first and foremost a hater. The Boyfriend Bargain, or Boyfriend Bargain by Ilsa Madden Mills. Mixed luck with this author's work. I think I tried to pick this book up a couple of different times and it just didn't totally work for me. It's a hockey romance. It felt very like stereotypical. Bad Influence by Charlie Rose. I want to say this one had a really annoying like back and forth between hero and heroine, or maybe this is the one where he is a douchey lacrosse player. Either way, didn't need to finish it. The Mister by E.L. James I think had some problematic messages about what it means to be from Eastern Europe, so I just decided not to read that one. Slave to Sensation by Nalini Singh. This is one that I would be apt to pick up again because I've heard really good things about the Psy Changeling series, but this one, I don't know, I just felt kind of disconnected from the characters. I feel like at this stage, it would be more fruitful to just tell you the books that I can remember anything about and why I DNF'd them. A lot of these are books that I just like wouldn't have picked up on my own. I think I probably got them from like NetGalley, or I saw other people reading them and being talked about. I think that my booktube viewing back in, yeah, like 2018, 2019 was people who don't necessarily have the same taste in books as me, and that's totally cool. I think I probably read a lot more diversely in terms of genre back then, but I think it also led to kind of a lot of DNFs as well. Like some of these I'm just like, yeah, like I would not have picked a lot of this up on my own. Foundry Side was interesting, but I got like a physical arc of this. I think it was one of my first physical arcs and I was so excited. Captive in the Dark was a dark romance that just was not it at all. Children of Blood and Bone, even though this one was super popular, I couldn't get into it. And I think, again, at the beginning of my booktube career, I really tried with young adult because that's just like what I had known for so long. And I read quite a lot of it in the first couple of years. And I think it was preventing me from finding things that I really, really loved because I had just already kind of gotten past those books. And that's not to say that you can't read YA if you were older than me or the same age as me or younger than me. I don't seem to connect with the characters as much anymore in the stories. So yeah, that's why I don't tend to pick them up anymore. But I think younger me didn't even know that. Like, didn't even know that that was the problem with some of these books for me. Rule by Jay Crownover. I just remember the way that the hero in this book is described is like so quintessential, like 2000s. It killed me. American Queen by Sierra Simone. The new Camelot series, I feel like gets a lot of recommendation from people and I just don't seem to understand it. The relationship dynamics here are fucking weird. They just are. Frost and Starlight, I do think I actually went back and picked up. I think that's why it's rated. Oh, that's something I forgot to touch on. Some of these books are rated. That is something that has majorly majorly changed for me over the years. I don't rate my DNFs, and I also don't put them on my read shelf on Goodreads. I think in the past I have, like, depending on how far I get into a book, but that's just not something I tend to do anymore. So, you know, she's changing, she's growing, she's evolving. Fire, Frost, and Starlight I initially put down because I was like, what in the fucking fanfiction is this? It did not seem to propel the story forward, and I'm not someone who tends to enjoy novellas for that reason. They tend to just feel like filler that don't add to the overall story, and I very much feel that way about this book. I guess you could say it kind of like bridges the gap. It doesn't bridge the gap though, I don't think. Basically fan fiction and fan service and Reese and Farrah banging their brains out. So crazy to see like how far these go back, like these 2017 DNFs, like this YA. The Goblins of Bellwater, that was the first book I ever got access to on NetGalley. Let's talk about A Little Life. That'll be the last thing we talk about. I don't think that we need to torture characters. I just don't. I simply do not believe that. It's not something that I enjoy. I do not like torture corn. I feel like that's what this book is. It's like, let's put these characters through like the most brutal shit you can think of. Because it's brutal, you will forget that nothing else really happens in this book. You'll forget that you're not really actually learning anything or taking anything away. I don't really like when authors try to like tug on your heartstrings or to make you cry to convince you that the book is good. I think the book should stand on its own, and I don't think that should try to force you to cry. Like, if I'm gonna cry naturally, okay. Like, if a sad thing happens, okay, but I like books that are open to interpretation. Books that I can maybe cry at one point and you would be like, why the fuck would you cry at that? This book, it's like, you're supposed to cry at this chapter. Oh, you're supposed to cry at this. Like, it's not, it doesn't make for an interesting read to me. It's kind of giving Taylor Jenkins Reid vibes, right? Like, let's make this book as quotable as possible and it's gonna make you feel something. I'm here to make you feel something, and I feel that way about this book. Yeah, like, what was the fucking point? What was the purpose? I don't get it. I could talk about this for hours, honestly. I actually couldn't, because I don't remember that much about this book. I just remember like, this is not it. I think a lot of people feel the same way as I do, so I don't need to continue on about it, but I DNF'd it, just like I DNF'd all 146 of these other books. I am curious though, as I've been talking about these books, well, hopefully you had a good time, but also just like to know in the comments, like I've said a couple of times, which of these books you've read and swear by and really think that I need to revisit, give a second chance to, because I will do that on my channel next month. So I'm hoping to gather between 3 and 5 books DNF shelf and give them a second chance. So let me know in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching this video though, y'all. I love y'all so much, and I'll see you in the next one.